Welcome, everyone. We're just waiting for people to trickle into the meeting. So we're just giving it one more minute before we get started. In the meantime, if you feel comfortable sharing where you're dialing in from and maybe your area of expertise or interest, please do so in the chat area. And once the presentation gets started, please use the Q&A area to post questions there. Okay, I think we're going to get started now in the interest of time. So welcome, everyone. My name is Valerie de Liedekerke. I am a project manager here at the Atlantic International Research Center, and I am also the coordinator of the Blue Mission Atlantic and Arctic Coordination and Support Action Lighthouse for the Mission Ocean. So today we have the pleasure of having the Horizon Europe BLUE4ALL project, which is working towards addressing marine conservation and restoration challenges in Europe. BLUE4ALL places stakeholders at the center of the MPA process, ensuring their needs and concerns are addressed from the outset. BLUE4ALL works with stakeholders from 25 information sites and living labs in the Mediterranean Sea, Baltic Sea, and Northeast Atlantic regions to collate and develop tools for preserving and restoring the marine environment in a socially sustainable and acceptable way. We will hear about the goals and first results of the project from our speaker today, Steven Degraer. Started his scientific career in benthic ecology of intertidal and shallow subtidal temperate marine ecosystems at Ghent University. After his PhD research, he started broadening his research from temperate to tropical ecosystems, from sandy to rocky coasts, and from benthos to avifauna, and from fundamental to applied research. Marine management, focusing on nature conservation and sustainable use and exploitation of the marine resources, has always been the red line running through his work. Since 2008, he is coordinating the Marine Ecology and Management team of the Institute of Natural Sciences, with a broad expertise on marine mammals and seabirds, rocky shore fauna and invasive species, and underwater noise embedded in an ecosystem management context. So we're very pleased and excited to hear about this project and everything it has ongoing. It's quite a big and complex project. So over to you, Steven. Oops, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay, I think now you can hear me, right?
Yes, and then just your
And
presentation.
Presentation mode, yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
fantastic. Great. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So, well, thanks a lot for your interest in the BLUE4ALL project. BLUE4ALL stands for a blueprint demonstration for co-created, effective, efficient, and resilient networks of MPAs. I think the most important words in there are co-created. So this is what Valerie was already referring to. This is the fact that indeed we are working with stakeholders and we want to achieve effective and efficient MPAs. So they should do what they are intended to do, and they should kind of deliver, the conservation goals that they were meant to achieve. And this should happen in an efficient way. You can also see networks of MPAs. We are actually focusing on, or the tools that we are developing should actually be applicable to individual MPAs, but also to networks of MPAs. And my name is Steven Degraer, as already introduced by Valerie, and I work at the Institute of Natural Sciences in Belgium. And what you also see on that slide, and that will come back at the very last slide, is how to stay in touch with us and how to stay on top of our findings. So you can subscribe to our newsletter. That is something that you will be prompted to when you first enter our website. So if you're interested, just go to www.blue4all.eu and register to our newsletters to get the latest information. All right. First of all, I would like to take you to something that you're probably all very much familiar with. That is actually the concept of marine paper parks. If you look at this graph, it's actually showing, the percentage coverage or the percentage of the surface area delineated as MPAs of all kinds, be it Natura 2000, be it nationally designated protected areas, or a combination of both in the different countries in Europe. And what you can see is that, countries like Germany, and they end up with more than 45% of the area that has been designated of their surface area, their marine surface area, that has been designated as marine protected area. Belgium and France go close to 40%, and you can see many other countries in Europe that go well beyond 20% of the area being declared a marine protected area. The issue with that, however, is that designation is just one step towards achieving real protection. So it's not just a line on the map. You have to manage those areas. And as we all know, unmanaged actually means unprotected. And if you have a look at, those areas in Europe that are designated as marine protected areas, then you can see that about 75% of the MPAs still are affected by one or more threats. On average, each of these MPAs is threatened by two, or is confronted with two threats, up to more than 11 threats each. If you look at those marine protected areas that are not affected at all, that's only 0.07% of the total area of the Natura 2000 marine protected areas in Europe. And the most widely spread threats are marine traffic and fishing, but many more of these threats apply in many of the marine protected areas, which means that actually, if you really want to talk about conservation, we'll probably have to do something about how to best manage those activities and the accompanying threats in those marine protected areas. And actually, without effective management, the designated marine protected areas remain mere paper parks that provide little to no actual protection. That is, I think, where we are now, right? And it is also one of the reasons, or probably one of the main reasons, why actually we are now having this European mission to restore our oceans and waters by 2030. It has a couple of topics that are touched upon, and first of all, to protect and restore marine and freshwater ecosystems and biodiversity. Second topic about the prevention and elimination of pollution in our oceans, seas, and waters. And then a third topic on the carbon neutral and circular blue economies. And BLUE4ALL is actually sitting in this. Just one moment. Yeah, this is where BLUE4ALL is sitting, which is actually also referred to as the Blue Parks program. So it is about, not trying to achieve, but taking the steps to achieve by 2030 to the protection of at least 30% and strict protection of 10% of our EU seas areas. And then also the second bullet is about, of course, riverine systems. And the third bullet is then also about the marine nature restoration targets, what is it we want to achieve and actually how to get there. So by 2030, actually, BLUE4ALL is contributing together with, but of course, many other projects is contributing to achieving those goals by 2030. And the BLUE4ALL philosophy is actually looks like this. So what we see nowadays, and think about Habitats Directive, think about Birds Directive, but also think about Marine Strategy Framework Directive, and all that sort of regulations that actually aim at achieving kind of resilient marine waters, protected waters, reaching conservation goals. All of that is very much top-down driven. So it's very much determined by regulatory demands focusing on biodiversity assets. Biodiversity assets, structural and functional. I think that's a couple of decades ago when we had the birds directive popping up in the 70s, if I remember well. Then of course we were very much focusing only on the birds. Then later on in the 90s, the habitats directive also came into force, and then we were talking about specific species and habitats, which was very much structurally organized. I think nowadays we know that, of course, it's not only structural aspects from within biodiversity um, that have to be conserved, but we also have to think about the functions that they conserve. And this is how they make the link to ecosystem services. So this is how it went, the top-down approach, feeding into the MPA process, starting with the delineation, identification of the conservation objectives, status assessment, the measure identification, implementation, enforcement, status monitoring, and then the full circle around, see what you can do with that. What actually BLUE4ALL tries to achieve is to actually align this top-down approach with the bottom-up approach. So nowadays we are very much concerned about, of course, what's not concerned about, but we are very much aware about societal expectations. So it's not only about, what Europe wants and what governments want, it's also about how people actually fit into that scheme. So societal expectations become very important. This is where you will see that actually ecosystem services become way more important, less so than the classical biodiversity focus on species and habitats. But of course, since both are linked together, there should be a way to actually align both. So we then frame actually this MPA process, we frame it in what we call a socio-ecological concept. Both should go hand in hand as to achieve these effective, efficient, and resilient marine protected areas. The way we want to do that in BLUE4ALL is to not only think about it in an academic way, but we really want to reach out to what we call living labs and information sites. Both consist of a series of marine protected areas and networks of marine protected areas that kind of guide the whole project into making sure, to ensuring that that whatever we are doing is actually also helping what should happen in those marine protected areas. And this is actually then how you collectively, through consultation and co-creation, you identify and you plan the MPA. There's an internal preparation and alignment. You have to build trust, co-creation, implementation, and monitor. All of that actually sit into this central scheme of the socio-ecological concept. Some key statistics about the project. The project has started in January 2023, and it will run until the end of 2026. So it is a 4-year project, and we are now, running this project for about 18 months. The total budget is about 8.4 billion euro. We have 22 partners from 13 EU member states, representing 4 EU sea bases. So that's the North Atlantic, including the North Sea, the Baltic Sea, Mediterranean. And the funding is, that's clear, that's through this mission program. The case studies I was just talking about are 14 living labs. I will come closer to, I will say more about living labs and what exactly they are later on, and 12 information sites. And our sister project within this call is Ocean Citizen. This is the BLUE4ALL consortium, so the 22 partners. You can see we do have also on board these living labs. For example, the Comune di Otranto is actually the municipality that is responsible for the management of the Otranto marine protected area. Torriguaceto, the same here. So we do have the living labs or our case studies on board as partners. So they are fully integrated in the project, and they determine how the project is run together with all with other organizations like universities, government institutions, federal research institutions, and also, intergovernmental organization like ICs, IUCN, and so on. So he has quite a wide range of people on board, which should be a guarantee for achieving what we want to achieve with the BLUE4ALL project. We're on to the living labs. So the living labs, this is how they are spread throughout Europe. So we have 4 living labs in the Baltic Sea. We have 4 of them in the North Sea, and the North Atlantic, 2 of the living labs, and then another 4 that are spread throughout the Mediterranean Sea. What you see is in orange are the individual MPAs, so the single marine protected areas, where we have the dark or the darker orange or brownish color is referring to networks of MPAs. So for example, we have the Irish marine protected network on board. We have a Mediterranean network on board. We have the Finnish National Marine Protected Area Network on board, and the Baltic Sea Marine Protected Area Network on board as well. So it's a combination of both. All of them are partner in the BLUE4ALL project, which means that they are committed to making it happening. Now, the living labs, what we actually want to get from them, well, what together the living labs and of course all the other partners want to get from the living labs is actually we want to have our feet on the ground. So we want to learn from successes and failures. A lot of MPAs, all of them are somewhere in this MPA process. Some of these MPAs were just took the step of designation. Others have yet full measures that are being implemented. Others are already in the monitoring stage, but all of them have passed through this or are passing through this MPA process, and they have been confronted with successes and failures. And it's particularly about those successes and failures that we want to know more about. What is it that made a particular MPA or network of MPA take a step in this process that was successful, and where actually did they fail in taking a step? And that's exactly what we want to get from not only the MPA managers, which would then be the governance actors, the regulatory role. We also setting up stakeholder engagement groups in every of these marine protected areas and networks of marine protected areas, which is actually anyone or a group with a direct or indirect interest in the MPA. And then, of course, we also have the knowledge institutes, universities, research centers, and think tanks. So all of them together are actually making up this stakeholder engagement groups from which we would like to get more information on successes and failures. With these living labs, we're not only going to draw lessons from successes and failures. What we want to do is, once we achieve, and I will come back to that later on, once we have developed tools that could help them actually successfully taking each of these steps, we will also reach out to the living labs as to get those tools tested, because there's a big difference between an academic exercise about, okay, that's the problem from an academic point of view, this could help you out. There's a big difference between that and the actual application or implementation in the field. And that's also what we want to do in these living labs. Okay, the advantages of collaborating with MPA managers and the stakeholders is that, first of all, both feet on the ground to the issue focus and solutions. That is what we're focusing on. We want to have the diversity, the full diversity of the insights. We want to take maximum advantage of that. It will also contribute to widely ranging expertise. It's a method to dialogue and innovation, and it is, of course, a tool for co-creation and hence co-ownership. And most likely, the co-ownership is one of the most important aspects when we talk about, BLUE4ALL and actually effective and efficient marine protected areas. It's only once we have the stakeholders on board that they co-own the marine protected area that it has a big chance of success. The concept and workflow of BLUE4ALL looks like that. Actually, once we developed the project proposal, we were thinking about parallels, very simple parallels. And actually think about, building a house. If you're building a house, what you need tools. These tools should be in the toolbox. And actually, you also have to you also need to be able to find the right tool in the toolbox. So that was more or less the concept. So first of all, that's where package one. We thought about, okay, well, what should be the layers in this toolbox? If you think about the tools that you're going to create, the tools that you're going to collate, what kind of aspects of marine protected area process are they going to touch upon? So what kind of tax would they need, you could also say. This is the parallel with the toolbox, the empty toolbox. In work package 2 and 3, we are then having an in-depth look in literature, but also again in interaction with our living labs and information sites, which actually are managed through work package 4. So here's the consultation phase. We're going to have a look at, okay, well, what is it that already exists if it is about tools that we would need to run through this MPA process, and what tools are missing. Work package 2 is about the social aspects, socio-economic aspects and governance. Work package 3 is about the ecological and environmental aspects of the MPA process. So then we're going to have a look around. Okay, well, those are the tools that we need. What we get from the living labs is then answers like, okay, what tools is it that we actually need? We will come back to that later on when I will present the needs assessment that we have done in the living labs. And that's when we come to the testing, do these tools actually work? Because you can come up with, with tools that may have worked in one marine protected area, but may not work elsewhere. So how to then adapt accommodate those tools as to make them more generically applicable. So it's really like, the counterpart, like, okay, here's a tool, that's what we want to get fixed. Does it work? It does work. What should we do about it as to make it generically working? And then all of that, once you have all that, then of course it should be organized into a toolbox that would be easily used, that would be easily usable by those that would need it, particularly the MPA managers, I would say, but not only the MPA managers, because when you talk about co-created and co-owned marine protected areas, then also other stakeholders might have a genuine interest in finding out, what these tools are, what the problems are, what the tools are there to fix those problems, and so on. So, but we have to think about how to best organize these tools in the toolbox so people can find the right tool for their specific problem. And then we're also going to have that aligned with a guidance for achieving effective, efficient, and resilient MPAs. That's actually the manual to the toolbox, to the filter toolbox. That's how we run the project. It is about, as already said, it's about aligning top-down and bottom-up approaches to marine protected areas to take maximum advantage of existing tools. So we're not focusing that much on development of new tools because there is already a lot out there, as we have seen so far. We just want to bring all of that together and offer it to the users in a user-friendly manner. We will develop tailored guidance to effective and efficient MPAs once we have our filled toolbox presented, and we will ensure also the legacy and training for the Blue Parks project products. The last bullet is actually referring to the BLUE4ALL legacy. So we know that many projects, they run for 3 or 4 years, and then after 3 or 4 years, they have a nice product, which is then presented, and then people tend to forget about it and start developing a completely new thing. We would like to avoid that, so we explicitly refer to the building of an MPA managers MPA managers network, which is going to be aligned with the Blue Parks practitioners network that is being set up by the European Union as well, or through the Blue Parks program. So we just want to make sure that whatever we achieve is going to taken up by this community and actually built further from within this community as well. This is a lot of text. I'm not going to walk through it in detail, but this is the structure of our project. It actually consists of a couple of topics, I would say. First of all, that's our first work package. That's actually the empty toolbox. The empty toolbox you have seen on a couple of slides ago. On the left-hand side, you have the empty toolbox, which is here called the Integrated Solutions Framework. So what we do is we have reviewed literature and we got inspired by similar kind of initiatives, but we have not really identified any initiative that did exactly the same. But a lot of initiatives are inspiring. Think about the IUCN Green List, for example, does not have the same aim, but what is in there is inspiring to how our integrated solutions framework could look like. So this is actually about the layers. What layers do we need, or what tags do we want to give to our tools that we're going to collate? This is done. I will come back to that later on. We also have the Living Labs engagement facilitated. So we have reached out to our information sites and Living Labs. We kind of was what we call the baseline assessment. Where are they? What are the problems they are facing, and so on. And we particularly also asked them about what their expectations from such a project as BLUE4ALL would be, because it's not up to the academic world to think about what the problems are. It's actually the MPA managers that are best positioned to tell us what actually the problems are that they are confronted with. So that was what we call the needs assessment. Then we are still developing for useful tools, so the socio-economic and the governance aspects, but also environmental and ecological aspects. I will not touch upon that one, but I will briefly touch upon the building of the blueprint platform. The blueprint platform that actually is the built, or it's the toolbox with the tools in place and with the guidance that goes with it. So MPA managers can easily identify the tool that would allow them to fix the problem they are confronted with, or the challenge they are confronted with. And then finally, we have, of course, our community, our network that is being built as to ensure that there is a BLUE4ALL legacy that is maintained after the lifetime of BLUE4ALL. Just going back to the scheme. So where we are now is we have done our background background knowledge check. So we know what is out there. We have been inspired, and we have developed in the an integrated solution framework, which will be presented shortly. Oops, what's happened now? Sorry. All right. We have launched the MPA needs assessment. So what is the MPA managers want to get, or what are the expectations of the MPA managers towards the BLUE4ALL project? We have established our stakeholder engagement group, which means that every network of MPA or MPA that is part of our Living Labs has assembled stakeholders that will actually help or that will facilitate, the input from the MPAs towards the BLUE4ALL project. Then that's work package 2. We are kind of collating what tools are out there, and then what we also started doing now is to conceptualize the blueprint platform. We only have taken the first steps for each of those, well, particularly for the conceptualization of the blueprint platform, but I will briefly talk about that. This is one slide I will show you about the needs assessment. What you see here is that there's a table in our deliverables. The deliverables actually, so we are now ending our first reporting period, which means that we're going to have some sort of a feedback moment with the European Union. That is, I think, in September, early October, and after that, actually, our deliverables should be freely available. So this is then when you can have the full view on, for example, what our Living Labs needs assessment, what came out of those needs assessments. So the needs assessment is about, okay, we went out to the marine protected areas and networks of marine protected areas, and we asked the MPA managers, where are you in the process? What challenges are you confronted with now, or what challenges have you been confronted with in the earlier days? And how would you think a project like BLUE4ALL could help you with actually dealing with those challenges? And here's just 2 examples. And what you can see here, there are 9 other Living Labs for which we have similar kind of information, which is all in the report, but which I do not want to present here because for the sake of timekeeping. So the examples we have here is the Baltic Sea MPA network. Okay, it's a network. Is designated but not fully implemented yet. And then what we got from the MPA managers was, okay, well, the challenge or what they expect from the project is like, okay, they want to, they refer to exchange of experiences and improving of the knowledge base. focus on tools on how to reach 30% protection and the 10% strict protection in the Baltic Sea. And then more ecologically driven, how to take the steps towards MPA quality, and managing the sites within the view of networks. Another MPA that's in the Mediterranean, Capo Carbonara, which is a individual MPA. It has been implemented. Here, actually, the MPA managers were particularly interested in the collection of tools that would allow them to better their stakeholder involvement in actually the various MPA processes. So not only the zoning or the designation, but then also the expansion of the perimeter or the parameters, and so on. So you can see that every living lab has presented their expectations, which we have taken on board as to identify what it is we have to look for, what it is we have to collect. The integration solutions framework, that's actually, the empty toolbox. This really cost a lot of energy trying to move through all the literature that is out there, which were actually, that was the bulk of the work that was done in work package 1. But then all of that has to be kind of consolidated into what we call this integrated solutions framework, the empty toolbox. And we actually organized, aside of all the information, the literature review that we did, we also organized for a dedicated workshop. And from that workshop, we actually saw that rather than having different layers in the toolbox, we probably are going to tag the different tools as to be able to, or to allow the MPA managers to find the right tool. And the tags were actually organized according to 3 different aspects, MPA aspects or MPA process aspects. That is, first of all, the MPA process phases. So when you talk about the planning phase, the implementation phase, management phase, reviewing phase, dimensions are cross-cutting with these MPA process phases. We talk about the social, the environmental, ecological, the economic, and the governance dimension that has to be taken apart. And then there's another cross-cutting aspect, which we call the components. And those are actually kind of all different aspects for which we have seen that MPA managers want to, well, it's actually rather referring to the specific challenges that they are confronted with. It's about, educating stakeholders, for example. It's about how to communicate. It's about ecological assessment and monitoring. Also about how to best enforce, capacity building, and so on and so on. So those are actually the components that we are going to work with. And once we use those tags to actually tag the different tools that we will develop, then it will be easy. Well, easy. We believe that it will be relatively easy for MPA managers to actually be directed towards those tools that could help them with their specific problem that they have confronted with at that time. What you have here is the living lab. Sorry. All right. Those are the living lab expectations from the Blueprint platform, because we said that we also want to have a toolbox with the tools inside and with a guidance document, so they are able to find them. They are guided towards the right tool for their specific problem. This is going to be dealt with in the Blueprint platform. And when you talk about the Blueprint platform, we also now reached out to our living labs, and they informed us with what they expect from this Blueprint platform. Not that much from a content perspective, because that was the needs assessment. What do they want from the project? But this is about what they expect from the Blueprint platform from a more technical perspective, like the platform, like the Blueprint platform interface. What kind of interface do they want to work with? What about the catalog functionalities that they expect to find in this platform? And then what our expectations are with regards to the Blueprint platform networking functionalities. So for each of these aspects, we do have a series of features, and those features, the color code you can see here is just that. Okay, in green, for example, the grant to use interface, so the easy access, the easy interface to the platform, simplicity and intuitiveness. That aspect has been identified as crucial by all the living labs. In yellow, those are features that have been identified as crucial for only some of the living labs, so but not all. So this already gives us some insight into how to best design this blueprint platform so that the end users, our MPA managers, are going to be able to work with it. And then to finally touch upon the practitioners networking. So knowledge sharing, of course, is it's a very important one. It's not only about the nature of knowledge that you want to share, but it's particularly about the opportunity. So nature of knowledge, that's actually what we would present in our blueprint platform. But it's also the opportunities to share. You know, you first have to establish a network, maintain a network, has to make sure that you that this network, you know, is a long-lived kind of initiative. And of course, if you want to get there, there should be a motivation to share and to bring all that information together and maintain it in the long run and even update it in the long run as well. What we have done so far is we have mapped the key influential actors with regards to this Blue Parks community. We are meeting and online exchanges with and across the test site. So this is our direct interaction with the MPA managers. There will be demo sessions that will be organized. So I think that may be of interest also to this community. We're going to have webinars which can be attended. I think many of them will be streamed as well. Maybe some of them will end up on YouTube. This is something we can definitely discuss. Conference and events are going to be organized, and nowadays we are particularly focusing on the establishment of this MPA knowledge and network knowledge transfer platform, which is going to be aligned with this Blue Parks practitioners network that the EU is setting up. So this is more or less where we are at this point. I think that we came from a very kind of conceptual way of thinking when we first thought about our proposal and tried to get everybody on the same page as to get things moving on. I think we are now touching the ground because we are now reaching out to these living labs. They keep us with both feet on the ground, and then the future or the next 2 years and a half should actually make sure that we keep our feet on the ground and that we actually can make this output even more tangible than as it is now. Follow BLUE4ALL already introduced that, and I thank you for your attention and looking forward to the discussion that will follow after this presentation. Thank you. I will stop sharing, I guess, Valerie.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steven. That was a lot to put into a presentation. You've done a lot of work there as a consortium, and I can see you've really put a lot of thought into these processes and this tool, and also the platform, which I'm keen to find out a little bit more in terms of what that's going to look like. But first, before I go, I have a few questions. Please, audience, if you have some questions, put your questions in the Q&A. I also want to recognize our audience today because I was looking through some of the people in the chat there, and so we have quite a few people that are working directly with MPAs. So we have a lot of expertise and knowledge here that hopefully we can all exchange and share on. So for example, we have Emma Doyle from MPA Connect Network in the Caribbeans. And I think and also the Aquatic Hub Africa network from Nigeria. So MSP for Bio EU project is here, and a couple of others here too. We have Hung Chung Gao from the Department of Urban and Regional Planning from Malaysia. So really spread audience. So thank you for joining us and for your interest in this webinar today. I'm just reading something that's come here from Thanos. Thanos, who's from the MPA Europe project, by the way. I know Thanos. He says he's happy to enhance cooperation with the MPA Europe project. He gives a link here in the chat and invite to join next year's international conference on MPAs and MSP. So there you go. You already got an invitation.
Very good.
Stephen. So we already have one question here in the chat from Lucia. She says, thanks for this very nice presentation. Did you consider in your framework the social and environmental impact of climate change and MPA's management and designation?
Yes, actually, well, of course, the proof of the pudding will be in its eating. So as you have seen, we started off very conceptually. We are now, getting more tangible. The tools that yet are to be collated and to be fit in our framework should also comprise, those challenges that MPA managers are confronted with in relation to how climate change is impacting indeed their conservation goals or achieving their conservation goals. So yes, that will be a part, or that should be part of the tools that we will present in our blueprint platform. But I will have to take this up, or I could take this opportunity to also make clear that I don't think, well, we shouldn't be naive in thinking that we will be able to kind of collate all the challenges that MPAs are confronted with throughout Europe or even worldwide, and then have identified all the solutions that could help us to addressing that. Don't think this can be done. So we will try to be as exhaustive as possible, but I'm pretty sure that, there's a work to be done after the lifetime of Blue for All as well. And this is exactly why actually this network is very important. It's not a tool that is fixed in time. It should be a living tool that should be updated, that should be completed by the community that takes ownership of the Blueprint platform.
Yes, thank you. That kind of that does address two of my questions that I had as well. But I think one this kind of carries on a little bit from your answer, Stephen, is the fact that being spread across several basins like your project is, what do you find are the challenges and benefits faced with this sort of approach?
Good question. Well, what we wanted to do is we wanted to have living labs that were as widely ranging as possible from all sorts of perspectives. So geographically, but also very small ones, larger ones, network, individual ones. Uh, we wanted to have MPAs that were in various stages in this throughout in this MPA process. So, and the reason why we want to have it as widely ranging as possible was that that would actually be some sort of a guarantee that we would also that would allow us to get a rather exhaustive, but I'm very conscious about using that word, but to actually try to get a picture about the challenges that MPAs are confronted with that is as complete as possible. And this can only be achieved if you have uh, yeah, different types of MPAs in different geographic areas, different scales, and so on. So the diversity in our MPAs probably is key to the completeness of the exercise that we're going to do.
Thanks. Um, yeah, we find it a big challenge too. I mean, we're just only across two sea basins, the Arctic and the Atlantic, and we find that already very, very challenging because
Yeah,
they're quite different basins. I mean, I could say the North Sea and the Baltic Sea a little bit more similar, if you will, but yeah, once you start getting in like the Med and all that, then you're really talking very different needs, challenges, constraints,
yep,
and even some governance too. Um,
yep.
and speaking of governance, because I believe that's one of the things you were all looking and kind of did a map of all of the governance. Um, and maybe it's too early to say, but how is the governance, in your opinion, or in the projects, what it's finding, helping or hindering MPA implementation and management?
Yeah, well, I think that at this point, since actually, that was the aspect I did not touch upon, that was the work package 2 or work package 3. So I think it is a bit too early to judge on that. So if I would give an answer now, that would be an answer I would give from, my own experience with the MPAs that I'm working here with, particularly in Belgium. And I think that would not do just it would not do just to the project. So I rather would like to wait to addressing that question until we have run that analysis in the work package too.
Okay, yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah.
um, yes, there's a lot of monitoring and analysis to be done with these
Mhm.
mission ocean projects, being one of them, and being involved in several myself. Yeah, we still have a year and a half to go before the start of the next implementation of other projects. Um, Let's see here. I just see something pop up on my screen. So Claudia writes, thank you, Stephen, for the presentation. Looks like a very challenging project. I would like some clarifications on the training aspect with the Blueprint platform function as the training tool for the project. So question mark. Or will it be something else? Question mark. Additionally, you've mentioned the need to deliver training in different languages. How do you plan to tackle that?
Yeah, the training is actually not an explicit part of BLUE4ALL, but we do have another project. And Claudia, I saw the chat pass by. So you're talking, well, this question is from Claudia Delgado, who is going to collaborate also with this other project, Faros, where we're going to also have this training process developed. At this point, when we talk about training and multi-language setup, this is about the technicalities of the Blueprint platform. So we do well, and the guidance, of course, that we will develop as to help people trying to find a way through the Blueprint platform could be considered as some sort of a training, but we do not have kind of the hands-on training that hopefully we're going to develop in the Pharos project. So Pharos could definitely, add a next step as to not only make the Blueprint platform that we develop in BLUE4ALL known to as many people that have an interest in that sort of things as possible, but also to actually, build from the guidance on how to use the platform to a true training of how to work with the Blueprint platform in the Pharos project. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. And likewise, if I can just share with us and the lighthouses across the Mission Ocean, we also have a platform which is called wavelengths.eu, by the way, and hopefully you've heard of it. But in that platform, it covers a lot of things from governance to the projects to the solution services. The list goes on. It has a lot of categories. And so I think it's a fantastic resource that is meant to be a legacy beyond the life cycle of our projects. But the reason I bring this up is because I do see some overlap between the platform, I think, from what I hear that you guys are creating and ours. And I'm just also wondering, and this might be another dialogue to have later on, but how might we connect those two
Yes.
platforms and
Yeah.
to make sure that we're complementary and we're assisting all our stakeholders that we're
Yeah.
trying to reach out to, which on both of our cases, it's municipalities and marine authorities and so on and so forth. So yeah, we should definitely investigate that.
Yes, I think that if I may briefly respond to that, uh, the EU Mission Ocean, I think, is a great initiative. It's a very ambitious initiative, but if you look at it from a complexity perspective, it also is, if I may say so, a monster. So it's very difficult to actually, keep track of whatever is ongoing within the mission and try to connect. And I do know that there are, of course, quite a few programs that are kind of, having this helicopter view about what's happening, trying to connect projects, trying to align similar type of initiatives within project. And I think that there's still a long way to travel as to get that done. And of course, we should not lose time with it because, those projects, they all live for, what is it, or they run for 3, 4, maybe some 5 years, maximum 5 years. And that's it. So, after that, it's very difficult to kind of align initiatives that have been run in parallel in different projects. So indeed, I think it's up to those coordination actions to really identify, where the links are, where there are similar types of ambitions, and see how to best align with those initiatives. Maybe a last thing I can say about that is that while we need to have a chat, and we need to have a chat not only with the initiative that you just mentioned, but maybe also with other initiatives. We are already doing that. The other complexity is, of course, that these EU projects are very much dictative and okay, well, that's the description of work, that's what you're going to do, and this is how you're going to do is this is the amount of time you will spend on it. So they leave little room for flexibility to accommodate for new insights or new stimuli that may come from other projects. Having said that, this is a technical aspect, and we should not be restricted by that. But it is something that we have to keep in mind. You cannot just change a project just like that. But we should at least, first of all, see what has to happen and then see how to do it. Yeah.
Yes, no, I agree. Thanks for that share. And I also support in my feeling is that the MPA part of the work is one silo, if you will, and the CSAs and Prep for Blue are kind of in another silo. That's how I'm
Yeah.
architecturally, that's how I see
Yeah.
it. That's how we
Yeah.
meet as well. And
Mm.
I think we should review that because we, as a CSA, we
Yeah.
meet with the MIP, the Mission Implementation Platform. We meet with Prep for Blue. We meet with all of the other CSAs, the other 4 lighthouses in Europe.
Yeah.
But the blue parks are left out.
Yeah. Okay.
And even though we go to the Mission Ocean European Ocean Day forums where we're all there together, it's like we only meet once or twice a year. When in fact I meet with everybody monthly,
Mm.
except for blue parks, and I think we need to bring in that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe we can propose that on each of our sides to the Mission Implementation Platform.
Yeah.
Um,
Really good. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the architecture behind all of this, people, in
Yeah.
case, especially the non-Europeans might not be aware. I have another question here from Roof. So Ghana is currently undertaking an MPA project in the western region of Ghana to ensure sustainability. There is the need for consistent monitoring of EOVs. This will require equipment and they are quite expensive, and this is a challenge. I would like to know how best we can strategize and the possible assistance that can be received.
Can you repeat the last part? Or maybe I can have a
Yes,
look at
it
the
says,
chat and I can
yeah, sure. It
listen.
says, I would like to know how best we can strategize and the possible assistance that can be received. So I think in terms of kind of getting this equipment and doing the monitoring necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the financial aspects, of course, are definitely an important part of the issue. It's if you think about the MPA process, of course, the designation of a marine protected area is not that much of an issue. There's not, well, okay, there is some thinking behind it, and then to define the conservation objectives, but then actually to measure implementation may come with some cost, and then particularly, the implementation and the monitoring, all that sort of that activities come with substantial cost. And I think it's very important for MPA managers that they carefully think about, okay, what is it that really is crucial, and how does that align with the monitoring and well, also the policing of the measures? What really is the important aspect to monitor, and having that confronted with what are the financial means that I have in hand. And I think that both of them should be aligned. I don't think it makes much sense to come up with a very fancy monitoring program, as you know that the financial means will not be able to cover for those monitoring plans. And then you have to make a selection. You have to be selective, and that selection can best be made, I think, ahead of starting the monitoring rather than being confronted afterwards. And I think that we all have to realize that I don't think there is a single marine protected area that will be able to collect all the monitoring data that scientists would like to have as to check on the state of the marine protected areas. There's always more data that we would like to collect. But okay, choices will have to be made. And there's one paper that could also be, I think, that may be of use here, and that is a paper that was written by I forgot his name, someone from Scotland, Tom Wilding, and I can actually probably have the link to that paper in the chat maybe later on, and that is it's called Turning of the Drip, and drip is DRIP, and it stands for Data Rich Information Pool. That is what we have to avoid. There are way too many monitoring programs out there that collect a lot of data, but actually, if you look at what you can do with those data as to translate that into information, they fail in doing that. So it's not about the data collection, it's about the information that you collect. And they have they present some sort of a scheme that could guide you to that could help you to select the monitoring program that you want to have in your marine protected area. I'm not sure whether I can, well, I cannot look for this link now, but maybe Valerie, there is another way to share this paper with the audience.
Yes, we could put the link up on the web page
Okay,
later.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
that'll
Yeah,
be fine.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think if for us, if I may add kind of our contribution here to Roof, is
Hmm.
I mean we are not a project just strictly looking at MPAs. We're doing restoration and protection of marine habitats. However, obviously that fits under MP, possible leading on to MPA designation, if you will. What we're really doing is we're looking at the business case behind all of this. You know, what's the business case? How can we make this attractive to investors and businesses to get involved in marine restoration? And so we're very much looking at markets. And I know this might be a bit contradictory or no, what's the word? Not everybody is crazy about these markets, is what I'm trying to get at. The carbon market and the biodiversity markets. You know, we're looking at these kind of schemes that would be able to fund restoration and also monitoring. So, Ruth, I hope that helps a little bit to answer also your question. And if not, just go and add some more in the Q&A. You have another question following up. Okay, so let's see now, I still have a few other questions. So because this project is really diverse in terms of stakeholders, how does the project ensure the inclusion of all of these diverse voices and perspectives?
Yeah, so that is actually what we want to achieve with our stakeholder engagement groups. So the stakeholder engagement groups are actually set up in such a way that they are representative for the stakeholders, or that they are as representative as possible for the MPAs that are represented now through our living labs. We have, and then when we send out the information, for example, the needs assessment, what is it that the MPA managers and their stakeholders would expect from a project like BLUE4ALL? We have a kind of a very standard set of questions that is then shared with the stakeholders, with the MPA managers, that they can collectively or individually fill out, which means that all of them could actually come up with, their viewpoint on what they would expect from the project. We're also going to have information sessions and consultation sessions and interaction sessions with the stakeholder engagement groups in every single living lab, which is going to have all the people around the table. So it's not that we only are in touch with the MPA manager and that the MPA manager also is the one that reaches out to the stakeholders. We also have actually a view and direct connection with these stakeholders as well.
Thank you. And then I think one last question before we close here. So what are your hopes then for the rest of the project, and especially after the project finishes? What do you have a second phase? What would you hope to see out of this?
Well, actually, the second phase, already started, I think. So we have BLUE4ALL, and you have a series of Blue Parks calls that I think were launched in 2022, 2023. I think there's another one now. So, there's a constancy if it is about Blue Parks calls, which means that a lot of, and each of these calls is very much overlapping with the other calls. Yeah. Which means that you have a series of projects that are nowadays in place that kind of follow up or contribute to and partly follow up on what BLUE4ALL is doing. There's this one project that is called Blue Connect. Blue Connect, which is a project that is going to start in September, which is taking account of what it is we are going to do in BLUE4ALL. But they are then going to do to take it one step further, that is to make it more hands-on, to really get restoration implemented in a selection of marine protected areas. There's also this Pharos project that I just referred to, Pharos project, which is actually going to take advantage of whatever has been developed within BLUE4ALL and see how we can expand that information or those insights towards the areas in the outermost regions in Europe. Because we are still very much, coastal Europe, you could say, but what about the Mid-Atlantic Islands? What about, the Caribbean, the Arctic Ocean, those are the remote areas in Europe. Is it applicable over there? Can we do something over there? Are there lessons to be learned from there? So you gradually actually build on BLUE4ALL. What I would expect or what I hope in the end or after the lifetime of BLUE4ALL is that all of those projects will actually consolidate into a vivid MPA practitioners community that are actually taking over the ownership of what has been produced by all of these projects. So it's not we are going to develop a tool that hopefully is going to be appreciated by the MPA practitioners, and then it's up to them to actually work with that. And I think that is exactly what also the what is at the heart of the European mission. It's clear that by 2030 we may have restored some of our oceans and waters. That's for sure. Well, I hope we will do that, but this won't stop in 2030. So you need this active community to continue working with what projects like BLUE4ALL, Blue Connect, MSP for Bio has been mentioned. There's close links with MSP for Bio as well, Pharos, what they develop. So the legacy most likely is what I would like to see happening between now and the end of the project.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, strongly agree with that. And there's also the BioProtect too, which is also developing methodologies and technical solutions to facilitate decision making about resource utilization and protection of the ocean. So that too will be building upon all your great work and others' great works too. So no, a lot of great work that's coming out of this Mission Ocean. We're very thankful to have the community, the European Commission supporting all of this great work and also helping our other partner countries outside of the EU too. I think we'll wrap it up there because we're a little over the hour. Apologies for that. I want to say again, thank you so much, Steven, for your coming today, presenting the project and sharing your expertise and knowledge with us, and also to our audience for their participation and also great questions. And we'll be continuing the dialogue, I'm sure. If there's anything you want to add, go ahead.
No, there's nothing I want to add. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the BLUE4ALL project. And if someone would have more questions, you're always welcome to directly get in touch with me. Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.